Here we go. Okay, now that we've had our plaster bat on our wheel, we're ready to do our first project, which is basically a cup. And a cup basically is a volume with three parts: the lip at the top, the body itself, and a foot at the bottom. Now, we're going to have to throw this. Eventually, we're going to let it dry for a while, come back, and I'll show you how to trim it and how to add a handle. But the first process is basically we're going to be making a cylinder, what we started out at first. First of all, we're going to come in here. We're going to throw our clay down on our bat. Remember that our bat may not be centered. Don't worry about it. Just do what's natural like we normally treat other people. We ignore it, right? Okay, no. But ignore it if it's wobbling, because we're only going to be working on this portion of the bat. So we get it up to speed, and what are the first things that we're going to do when we're throwing? Lock into our body, get our shoulders over, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring it up into that cone. We're going to center it and bring it back down. If it doesn't work a couple of times, just bring it up. We can center it down. See how easy it is? You can just do it with one hand. That's how simple it is once you get the feel for it. Remember not to get your wheel going too fast or too slow. The reasons for this is I want you to throw with the idea that you're just a little bit out of control, and we all know what that is. Okay? A little bit out of control, not way out of control, but if we have control of it, the wheel's spinning way too slow. Our hands have to manipulate way too slow. So we want it so it's just a little bit out of control. So that's a nice little balance that we've got to learn to deal with. So we've got it centered. There we go. We're going to make our cylinder form. So first of all, we're going to press down with our knuckle, concave surface there. We're going to moisten it a little bit. We're going to come in here, bring it down. That's not centered on the inside and the outside. Back to the wedging table and start over again. We're going to go down to about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to add a little bit of moisture in there so it's slick. I'm going to compress this clay a little bit right at the top. I'm going to turn my wrist, and I'm going to come over towards the outside, which is my outside hand being a fence. Okay, we're going to pinch that clay and lift and bring it up into our cylinder, just like that. And usually takes 2 or 3 pulls. We're going to come down to the bottom. We're going to pinch, lift, and bring it up. Okay, now we've got a fairly thick lip. Notice it's not wobbling. If it is, bring it in here and collar it in a little bit so it's nice and smooth like this. Come in here, and we're going to compress this clay. I'm going to just pinch in like this and push down on it lightly. You'll find out real quick if you don't do it lightly. Everything is in response to how fast this wheel's going. Now we're going to make a lip form. There's a couple different kinds. The first one was a real easy one where we would just take our sponge and our finger and we just roll it over just like that. So there's one right there. That's the easiest. Usually I want us to do a couple different forms of lips. This is the first one. Now I'm going to take this back. So that was number 1. And number 2 is a little more hard for you to do. But it also develops some more control of things. Let's make sure it's well lubricated. We're going to come down about let's say about 1 inch. And I'll turn a little bit so you can see it from the camera. And I'm going to take and I'm going to push the clay in between these 2 fingers to start a bulge. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back down here. And I'm going to push in and out a little bit. So there's the start of our lip. We're going to come out, add some moisture. We're going to pinch that in, bring it, lift it up, and then just flare it over our fingers like this. And then we're going to come in here and smooth that up. So that's the harder one of the 2 lips. Now also, we could leave the volume like this, but if we want more coffee, we're going to have to take that volume and bring it out a little bit. Notice that I'm adding a little moisture to everything. I'm making sure that it goes right through my hands with no friction. I usually like to take and hold the top lip area. I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to push that clay out. I'm just going to make a little nice arc like this. If you don't make an arc, it's going to fall on you. It's got to collapse. It's got all this weight up here. The arc will hold that. So we're going to come in here and you'll see that the volume starts to get larger in the bottom. And you can go from top to bottom or bottom to top. It doesn't matter. And eventually we'll put a foot in this when we trim them. But there we go. We've got kind of a fancy lip. The nice thing about these kind of lips is they'll work really well. And so that's what our pot's going to look like. Now we're going to come in here. The next thing we want to do is slow our wheel down. We're going to come in here and make sure that we get any moisture that may be in the bottom of this out of here. So take your sponge, be very careful. Just work in here, get that to there. Our next thing we want to do is we want to cut this thing loose from the wheel head. And the best way to do that is take your needle tool, take your wire tool, wrap it around your hands until we get about the distance of the bottom. And then we're going to push our fingers down, our index fingers on here to hold down really strong, and we're going to pull out because we're going to come and cut this right through the bottom of our clay. We're going to turn that clay wheel going just a little bit, and we're going to slowly come through here, hopefully not cutting through the bottom of our pot and leaving it like that. Okay? If you do not pull really taut across here, the bottom will pop up and cut it out of your pot. So then we can start over by go back and re-wedging on the wheel. Now that we've gotten to here, we need to pop our bat off. This can be a real hassle. Generally, I use a putty knife, and we're going to come in here and push a little bit and pop it loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and as you can see, I'm going to come in and I'm going to use my legs to push, and I'm going to use my arms to pull backwards, so I've got a controlled kind of pushing. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to push in until I pop it a little bit, hold this hand back here, and then we've broken that vacuum and we haven't distorted our pot, so it's all ready to go. Next thing we want to do is put it in the damp room for a day or so, or if we want to do it the fast way, we hit it with the hairdryer while it's spinning, and we'll come back and learn how to trim it later.